Hi, KXIQ listeners, and welcome to Brownsville Matters. This is Michael Quantz with the Brownsville Society for the Performing Arts, filling in for our regular and magnificent host, Dr. W.F. Strong. Joining us today is Ms. Clady Quesada, Lead Communications and Public Relations Coordinator for the Brownsville Public Utilities Board. For full disclosure, the Brownsville Public Utilities Board is a sponsor of the Brownsville Society for the Performing Arts, the nonprofit organization that owns and operates KXIQ Radio. Ms. Quesada, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
BPUB and the City of Brownsville took a formal action recently regarding the Tenaska Equity Fund. Can you tell us why this fund was established and what its purpose is?
Definitely. So the Tenaska Equity Fund was established once we knew the Tenaska project was going to probably not take place after all. And so those funds, which were $29 million, were put on the Tenaska Equity Fund. They remained untouched until now. And they were meant to be used for any construction cost that came along the way. And so now we're using those funds to give back to the community the second portion of all the Tenaska taxes that were collected for it. So, we did have the bill reduction program from 2013 to 2022. And so during that time, we did give $74 million back through the bill reduction program. That's what we called it. And now it's time for the TEF funds to go out as the final phase.
So this was part of a larger fee reduction project through Brownsville Public Utilities Board. Was that in collaboration with City of Brownsville too?
It wasn't in collaboration with the City of Brownsville, not the $74 million, but it was, and all of our decisions are made by our board, which then are taken to the City Commission. But we collected $114 million from the Tenaska project through the bills, from people's bills, and only electrical customers, correct? So out of those $114 million total, $74 million were given back to customers. And we did that that credit was applied to their energy charge and to maintain the energy charge consumption because, fuel and energy changes month to month. So to maintain that for 7 years, we maintained that fee at a low rate using the Tenaska funds, which totaled $74 million.
So that money was used to offset on a continuing basis the charges for energy use then?
Correct.
Okay.
And it maintained that way until December 1st of 2022.
Mm-hmm. And so the money came primarily or totally from the fees for electricity?
Correct, or the fees that were charged for the Tenaska project during that time period. So as I mentioned, the bill reduction program was you can say maybe the first time we reimbursed our customers. And the TEF funds, which are now $29 million, but after several months of the BPUB board working closely with the City of Brownsville through a joint subcommittee, they were deciding what they were going to do with those funds and how they were going to be distributed ultimately. So they were building essentially a TEF distribution roadmap. How are we going to distribute these final funds? So on Monday, the BPUB board voted to add the net interest earned on the $29 million because over the years it generated interest, which was a little bit over $2 million.
So they added that to the basic $29 million to increase the whole amount of the funds then. What is that amount now?
That's correct. And that's a little bit over $2 million that it generated overall.
So that brings the total amount of the equity fund to about $31 million?
Well, it brought it up to $30 million because 10% of those interests go to the city.
Okay. we kind of established where the money came from and how it was developed in collaboration with City of Brownsville and how to deal with these funds. Some of the questions that I'm sure people are wanting to ask on an ongoing basis, and probably for a while yet, as this process kind of takes hold and starts rolling out for this phase. How much can the average BPUB electric customer expect as a credit or refund related to this fund? And will it take those forms as a credit or a refund?
So the average refund per 1,000 kilowatts, that's how we average it.
So a kilowatt is a measure of how much electricity that we use.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, but we base it off of 1,000 kilowatts, and everybody uses different, right? Everyone has a different system of efficiency at home. Everyone has a different size of home. So all of that depends on that. But the average refund per 1,000 kilowatt residential customer is $208.93. However, the amount of the individual refunds may vary quite a bit, as I mentioned. Keep in mind that these refunds are based on consumption. That means that accounts with higher monthly bills will receive higher refund amounts. Consumption can vary from home to home, depending on the size of your home, how efficient are your appliances, and how you use your energy. So we want to give that information to customers, but we also don't want them to expect $208. And every customer is getting $49 or a little bit less than $50 across the board.
And how will they get that part of the fund? Will that be a credit to their account, or will there actually be a dividend to them?
Yes, it'll be accredited to their account. BPUB does have a cycle for their bills. So we have about 27 cycles, each bill cycle. So starting on the first cycle on Monday, May 8th, that's when they're going to start seeing the credit applied to their bill. And it's going to be very clear that it's coming from the Tenaska funds, and it's going to be applied toward their bill. Now,
so they'll be able to see that on the actual bill that this is a credit from the Tenaska fund.
That's correct. So they'll be able to accredit that. They will be able to, for example, now we have different, now that we're going to apply that credit, everybody's different. So if you were a customer between 2013 to 2016, but you are no longer a customer, you are going to receive that credit in a check to the last mailing address that we received from the customer.
So if you were a customer of BPUB during that period that applies to this fund, but no longer, then you can expect a dividend payment out of this fund, or just an equity payment. Probably not dividend is probably not the best term.
That's correct. And another question that people have been asking is, what if my parents are deceased now? Who does that money go to? The money will go to the heir, but if it's not collected, it does go to the state to be collected as unclaimed funds.
Right. So you've already mentioned the kind of average credit or payment that customers can expect, but can other entities besides individuals, homeowners, can businesses also expect to be part of this equity fund action?
Yes, all BPUB electric customers active between April 2013 and September 2016 are eligible to receive a refund. And again, refunds will be based on electric consumption during that period.
That's really good to know, so that customers can understand that there's this period that this fund applies for between the dates in 2013 and 2016. So some of the scenarios that BPUB customers might experience might answer some of the questions that people have regarding this fund and eligibility for the fund and how they might experience the credit on their account. Say, if somebody lived in Brownsville and was a BPUB electric customer between the years and the dates of 2013 and 2016, say they were part of that customer base for a couple of months, do they still get some sort of credit or reimbursement?
Well, if you were a customer during that time period, you will receive a credit. If you were a customer during that time period and you were only active, let's say, for a month or two, in some cases, let's say, for example, you didn't pay your bill during that month or two, and it was such a short time period, then you will probably not be receiving a check. So if you were a long-time customer for maybe 2-3 years and you always paid your bill, you will receive, I'm pretty sure you will receive a check. If you are if you are still an active customer, you will receive the additional $49 because you're still an active customer. And that's what was decided by the City of Brownsville and BPUB at this final meeting on Tuesday. Now, in some other cases, some people might want to opt out from the refund. To ensure that the delivery of these funds are timely, we are not allowing customers to opt out, but they can do a donation to our Project Share Fund.
And what is that fund?
The Project Share Fund, I'm glad you asked because it's something that's been ongoing for over 30 years. It's a fund that we have available for as a pool where through those funds we're able to help or assist financially other customers. Some people donate money. Some people, we've collected some of that money through golf tournaments in the past, or some of the bigger companies do a little bit of a bigger donation. But all those funds is used as a safety net for all of our customers. We have about 6 organizations that we work with that provide financial assistance to customers. We're always promoting that. We do have CCRGV, Catholic Charities of the Rio Grande Valley, K-Cost, Texas Utility Bill, and LEWAP is one of the newer ones that helps people with water. So we have about 6 programs available. If the customer does not qualify for one of those state programs or federal programs, there's always a safety net, and that's Project Share.
So if a current BPUB customer wanted to donate to Project Share, can they contact BPUB or go to the website and find out more information about Project Share to make a donation in that way?
Yes, and in the very recently we had it available on their bills. There's a line asking if you would like to donate, and you can put an amount. But if you haven't seen that in your bill, perhaps in the last several months, you can give us a call, and we'll be more than happy to get with you, and we'd be happy to have the donation. All those funds go back to people who need it the most. We also have another program for the elderly, 62 years of age and older. So there's a program for everyone, but if you don't qualify, Project Share is there serving as a safety net.
Very good. Also, we can imagine more scenarios where people would have questions about the Tenaska fund. And you mentioned that this fund is based on the number of kilowatt hours of use for your electric customers. And the idea here is that some people use a lot of kilowatt hours, and especially a large business, especially something that's industrial based, that uses a lot of energy as compared to a small home. Can you describe some of the differences that people will see in terms of the size of reimbursements based on that number?
Because we are reimbursing commercial customers. These commercial customers sometimes are the biggest electric users, or consume more energy. So their everyone's kilowatt would be the same, correct? So, but they might use more because they're in business. They're running 24/7 sometimes. And so they will see perhaps a little bit of a bigger credit applied, but that's because it was based on their consumption. And someone at home, let's say myself, with a smaller home, we use less. I'm not there during the day. I make sure I turn my AC off. I'm one of those people. So I might not see a credit applied to my bill. But again, it's a fair distribution of the funds. It's based on your consumption. And some people, you mentioned other different scenarios, their electric bill might have been paid by one of these financial assistance programs. So will they receive a refund? And we are following regulations, PUC regulations and the Texas Administrative Code. Refunds must be sent to the agency and not to the consumer. However, Community Action Corporation of South Texas, which is KCOST, chose not to receive its refund and asked that it be distributed to those customers. Otherwise, the customer is eligible for a refund based only on any portions of the bill paid directly by the customer. So if you receive help from KCOST, you are going to receive that refund because they've opted out.
So if somebody used less than 1,000 kilowatt hours in this period, they probably wouldn't receive much of a refund, if any. But if a corporation used 10,000 kilowatt hours, they would get a substantial credit on the bill.
That's correct. If you are still an active customer right now, and you have been since 2013, you will be receiving, I believe, a credit of a little less than $50. So that's, of course, if you're still an active customer. But everyone's situation varies, and we want to make sure that people know that maybe your neighbor received a little bit more, but maybe his home is 3-story home with a pool, with all these amenities, or your next door.
So they used much more power. Yeah.
So we try to be really fair about this. The subcommittee between the city of Brownsville and BPUB worked for months and had many discussions about how the funds would be distributed. And
is this a one-time occurrence, or do you expect that the Tenaska Equity Fund will be around for a long time? Are there any other plans for future disbursements from this fund, or is this pretty much closing out this process?
This basically closes out the process and finalizes all of the funds for Tenaska. And so this will be a one-time credit applied to their bill. It's important to also remember that some customers did receive assistance from financial organizations or state organizations. And although one of them has opted out to receive any of those refunds back, most of them are going to claim those refunds. So if they paid your bill during that time, they are going to be refunded that money because it goes to the person that paid the electric bill. And it is also important to remember that this is only applied to electric customers. BPUB offers water and wastewater services, but this credit is only to electric customers.
Yeah, so none of the other services really apply to this?
No.
Okay.
No, and also during the city commission meeting, BPUB and the BPUB board, they both agreed that because BPUB is an organization itself, and so is the city, they would be, quote unquote, receiving their refund, but they gave those up. So all of that's going to be added to the final number of the Tenaska Equity Fund. And so that it reminded me, because you mentioned $31 million at the beginning, so it does bring the amount to $31.35 million.
So City of Brownsville basically said, don't pay us the equity fund difference, and just pile that on to what the Tenaska Equity Fund has in terms of distribution to the customers. Is that correct?
Right. And so did BPUB. But again, from that interest that was generated throughout those years, 10% did go to the city, and that's not given back to the community.
Okay. So in terms of this equity fund and its purpose and function, where can BPUB customers go to find out more about these details? Does the City of Brownsville or BPUB have FAQs online or anything like that?
I'm glad you asked. Yes, we design a web page on our website specifically for Tenaska. It really breaks down all the numbers, and it tells you the history of how the project started, and how it took its course throughout the years, because it was a 10-year sort of conversation. So it will explain to you. It's on our website. Just go to www.brownsville-pub.com, and you can go under Tenaska Equity Fund or Tenaska, and it'll bring up the website. And it's really nice. It really does provide really easy to read graphics. But if you have any questions, we have right now 2 people that are assigned specifically to answer any questions regarding the Tenaska Equity Fund credit. And they're at your disposal. Just call them at 956-983-6121. But we also have a new email address that you can use to skip the line during the call. And that's TEF inquiries at brownsville-pub.com, and the direct link to the website, it's www.brownsville-pub.com/TEF refund.
So if they can find the Brownsville PUB website, then they'll be able to navigate to anything that they want to find out about the Tenaska Fund. And are those phone numbers for those specific individuals also published on the site?
Yes, all of that information's on the site. So we do our best to publish all of this information on social media. So keep up with our social media and our Facebook to find out any new developments. But this really finalizes the Tenaska conversation and the refund. I know there's been a lot of numbers out there on social media that are very different from the final numbers that our official auditors finalized. As I mentioned, BPUB collected $114 million from the Tenaska rebate fund. So any other numbers are completely unofficial and incorrect.
And so there has been a formal action taken between the information and processes that were decided upon with BPUB board itself and the city of Brownsville, and those pretty much brought to a close this entire process in terms of what it's going to be, how it's going to be distributed, and after this, there won't be any more Tenaska Fund. Is that correct?
That's correct. Those funds will be distributed to everybody. As you mentioned, and I'm glad you asked that, commercial customers will be receiving their refund as well. And they're, some of the biggest users of our electric consumption. So, they'll be receiving their refund as well. But this really closes any conversation about Tenaska rebate or refunds.
That's good to know, and I'm sure every customer, including businesses, will be glad to hear that their bills are going to be reduced at least for a little bit. As we all know, every little bit helps. Mm-hmm. And if anybody does want to ask more detailed questions or go over this information again and kind of get their bearings in the process, they do have access to the internet. They can go online to the BPUB website. They can check it out on Facebook through their phones and contact the people that are specifically dedicated to answer their questions about this project. And thank you so much for joining us for our special edition of Brownsville Matters. We have been speaking with Ms. Cleta Casada, Lead Communication and Public Relations Coordinator for Brownsville Public Utilities Board. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. And again, our lines are open if you have any further questions. We do encourage all our BPUB residents that are customers, electric customers of BPUB, to reach out, and we'll be more than happy to answer any questions they may have.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching this BSPA video. Go ahead and hit like and subscribe if you like what you see. And if you really like what you see, go ahead and go to our website, brosoperformingarts.org, and smash the donate button. And then we'll really like you too.